Welcome to the Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast, a show created to help painting company owners build a thriving painting business that does well over $1 million in annual revenue. I'm your host, Brandon Pierpont, founder of Painter Marketing Pros and creator of the popular PCA educational series Learn, Do, Grow, Marketing for Painters. In each episode, I'll be sharing proven tips, strategies, and processes from leading experts in the industry on how they found success in their painting business. We will be interviewing owners of the most successful painting companies in North America and learning from their experiences. In this series of the Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast, titled Third Generation Painter, First Generation Mindset, Joshua Joosten and Cody Roberts of Sequoia Painting will be sharing their story to building a near $2 million residential and commercial painting company based in Tulare County, California. They will be detailing the changes that Sequoia Painting has undergone from starting as a post-retirement hobby for Joshua to a profitable and growing enterprise with a very unique approach to the painting industry. In this episode, episode 1, Joshua and Cody will discuss the origins of Sequoia Painting from the perspective of a third-generation painter and the transition that needed to happen to create true business intrinsic value. In episode 2, they will discuss their counterintuitive organizational structure and how it has improved Sequoia Painting. In episode 3, Joshua and Cody will deep dive into the culture of Sequoia Painting and the mission they have to professionalize and elevate the painting industry. In episode 4, they will lay out the systems and processes that Sequoia Painting has in place to ensure quality and make the company truly scalable. And in the final episode, episode 5, Joshua and Cody will lay out the big future plans for Sequoia Painting, including the potential for a nationwide franchise. If you want to ask Joshua and Cody questions related to anything in this podcast series, you can do so in our exclusive Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast forum on Facebook. Just search for Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast forum on Facebook and request to join the group. Or type in the URL facebook.com/groups/Painter Marketing Mastermind. Again, that URL is facebook.com/groups/Painter Marketing Mastermind. There you can ask Joshua and Cody questions directly by tagging them with your question so you can see how anything discussed here applies to your particular painting company. What's going on, guys?
What's going on, Brandon? How you doing?
How you doing?
Good, man. I'm excited for this series. Josh, thanks for letting me twist your arm into it and for bringing Cody into this whole thing.
Oh, you're welcome. No problem at all, man.
My pleasure.
So let's maybe you guys can just start by telling us a little bit about Sequoia Painting, where you're at, who you serve, generally your size, just so we can get our bearings here.
Go ahead, Cody.
So we're located in basically the heart of California, right in the middle of what is deemed the Central Valley. Our service area, we really stick within about a 50 to 60 mile radius, which encompasses a half a dozen counties or so. What was the other question?
Kind of a big radius.
Well, part of this area, although we have decent sized cities, there's a lot of rural areas in between, so to get to the next city that's bigger than us would be Fresno, California, about 30 miles or so north of us. So then to get all of that Fresno city we really got to stretch about that 50 to 60. Otherwise, we'd be cutting part of that, that pool off. So, out of necessity, I guess. I'm sure if it was broken down by a population standpoint, it would probably be comparable to anybody that's in your heavier populated, more metropolitan type areas.
Got it. Okay, and then just to set the kind of the framework for our listeners. So you guys are co-owners of the business, and then Joshua, your wife, is also a co-owner, and then Cody and Joshua, you are cousins.
That's correct.
And Joshua, you started the business in what year?
We started in 2020.
Okay. And then Cody, you joined a year later, half a year later?
Correct. May, right around May of 21.
Got it.
We started January. The actual business launched January of 2020 is when I actually got my California state license number and started it then.
So let's get into the origins then of Sequoia Painting, Josh. What were you doing prior to launching the company? It's not that old of a company, been around for 4 to 5 years. What were you doing prior to launching it? And then what prompted you to launch it?
Well, like you were saying, Brandon, I am a third generation painter. Started out with my father back in the mid 90s, and worked with him for a handful of years. He taught me a lot, taught me how to, estimate the old school way, obviously. Taught me a lot about painting. Kind of got a little irritated working, with him. He's kind of one of those old school hard painters to work with. And in 2001, I decided to become a correctional officer here at California State Prisons. Worked from 2001 to 2019 at Corcoran State Prison.
So, Josh, I just want to stop you for a second. So your father was an old school, stubborn, hard-nosed painter. I don't think any of us have ever met someone like that. So you felt that rather than work with him, it would be easier and less cumbersome to go work with the most dangerous criminals. I think we're going to level. That would be easier than working with this painter, old school painter.
Yeah. Of
That's
course,
quite-
when you're 21 years old, you think you know it all, right? So
Yeah.
when you put in that aspect, yes, you're right.
Murderers and rapists and everything, nothing. But working with this stubborn painter, oh my goodness.
That's a good way to put it. Never thought of it that way, but that is an awesome way.
That's perspective there,
Yes,
right?
yeah, and to be honest with you, I look back now as 21-year-old kid, and what was I even had any business walking through general population mainline yard at 21 years old, where you do have gang members, mafia members,
Worst of the worst.
the worst of the worst of California, so did that for, like I said, till 2019, retired. Saw a lot of things go down in that prison system. Kind of changed my whole demeanor in life. I'm trying to rechange and get back to being a human. Because the things that I had seen and in the 19 years I was there is you never put enough words with the amount of stuff that I'd seen. From people getting murdered to riots to people hanging themselves, overdose on drugs. I've seen a lot of things. So anyways, retired from there 2019, and still young. The good thing about law enforcement is you do get to retire at a young age. So me and one of my partners from the prison, we were both painters by trade, decided for me to go get my license, or actually I should say transfer my license, because I've been on my dad's license since 97, 96. And then him and I were just going to paint a couple houses a month, just to kind of keep us busy. We didn't want to sit around and die, so we thought we would paint a couple houses a month, and that was it. And didn't know that as you're in the marketing business and being back in the day when you put yourself on the yellow pages, it's nothing compared to today's world of marketing. You put yourself on Google, and boy, that phone's going to ring, and it did. It rang, and it started to get to a point where I had to pull myself out immediately and start doing the estimating. My friend Mike that joined me, he was out there kind of running the jobs, and about 4 or 5 months into it, he's like, "Hey, I did not sign up for this to work 40 hours a week every week. I thought we were just going to do this for kind of fun, for some extra money." And so he kind of left, and it just, the snowball kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And in 2021, I mean, now at this point, I'm thinking, okay, now this is actually turning into a business. Like, what the heck's going on, And
Perspective, he's in his garage,
Yeah.
right? The humble beginnings of this, it's in the garage. It's like you
Like Jeff
stated,
Bezos here.
a hobby,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
or what I mean, officially licensed and all that kind of stuff, but just hey, let's keep busy kind of vision,
Yeah.
initially.
Right, working out of the garage and having, a home office. And, one of the bedrooms we turned into an office and started just growing and growing. And now by this time I got a ton of equipment in my third car garage, and we actually, started, having paint and stuff in there. And my wife is like, yeah, I don't think so. That ain't happening. You need to go get an office and a shop now. We're not gonna flood our garage with everything. And I'm not gonna lie, I was hella scared to even think about, getting a shop and an office and having some kind of monthly obligations, and again, never thought I was gonna turn this into an actual business. And ended up getting our first office and shop, and that was, I think, in January of 2020. I want to say by probably July or August, got our first office, our shop and office of that first year. And then snowball was still going, and I was getting to a point where I was getting really stressed out, and I mean, things were getting crazy, and didn't have no, policies or anything in line. There's just kind of just doing it. And one of my mentors that I have that has a very large company here in our area, in the tile industry, kind of woke me up a little bit. And because I would be calling him 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day, like, how do you handle this? How do you handle that? And his family and company's been around for, 50 plus years. So they've been there, done there, that kind of stuff. And finally, one day he's like, Josh, you just came from the biggest entity in California, the state prison system, where they probably have every policy, procedure, what time you use the restrooms, what time you have your lunch, everything is broken down. And he goes, why don't you just adapt policies and procedures and turn them into the painting world? And when he did that, it's like, shoot. So I ended up spending a handful of months just creating SOPs and policies and procedures and disciplinary, procedures. And 2021, May of 2021, I believe it was, Cody kind of seen an opportunity where the painting company was going, and I asked him if he would be interested in joining it, and again, at that point, I just thought we were just gonna keep it kind of medium type, just kind of not some crazy business, and he gets in here and wanted to start doing a lot of changes and helping me out with the policies and procedures. And he's been in the construction, himself for what, 20 years or so, 18, 20 years, and adapting things from company he's worked for, even though it was a different industry, you still, the business aspect of things, you run it the same way, no matter what industry you're in. So he started doing some changing and started doing a thing called measuring job sites, and measuring the projects, going on an exterior with that measuring wheel and taking measurements, where I would just kind of, as Slavic says, put your finger in the air and, this job will do 30 gallons, and so he started changing that and creating production rates and labor rates and all these different things. And and then from there, it just kept growing.
Cody created pure chaos with all his measurements and systems and standardization.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Brandon, you know what? When you got a person that grew up with the old school painting mentality where you just kind of guesstimate a project, it was very foreign to me because he, come to me and say, hey, we're going to start measuring everything and I'm going to break down how long it takes, how many square footage a person can pressure wash an hour and all these kind of things. And it took me a couple of months to be able to understand it. Like it was totally foreign to me. Finally, pushing forward a few years later, I kind of understand it now. Now he's changing it to a different level now. I mean, he's breaking things down to where how much, and you could probably, yesterday you were talking to me about prepping, like you're trying to break it down as how much prep is actually in a project versus painting, and what you're kind of at that 70% prepping and 30% painting, so he's kind of onto that mode now. So he's changing some things up, and I sure hope it don't get more difficult for me for sure.
Ever evolving, ever evolving.
Yeah, I love it. Ever improving. So man, that's quite the journey, Josh. So you joined, I mean, you started this thing as basically a hobby, so you weren't too bored, and then it kind of started running away from you because a lot of people were calling and wanted the business and things were going well, even though you didn't intend for them to go that well, to the point that your previous business partner or co-hobbyist was less interested in where this was going. You had to go find an office. Wife kicked you out of the house. Too many things were being stored there. And then Cody, you coming from the construction industry, were seeing the potential here and able to come in and bring your know-how to really start helping Josh with the systems and kind of align with him on building those SOPs and processes and measurements and start actually getting this thing really dialed in.
That's a pretty good summary of that. Yeah, you bet. When Joshua, contacted me about the potential for an opportunity, the things I noticed, I was impressed. First of all, the first couple of days I rode around with him, just in what he had already accomplished on his own regard and kids, right? For lack of better explanation. Office staff was a daughter of his and one of her school friends that were now, she's not the normal kid her age. She was definitely wise beyond her years and was a huge piece of professionalizing the office of Sequoia Painting. So I was impressed with a lot of what had already taken place. The brand that you see, the brush, a lot of people don't notice right away. That's a Sequoia tree line and the paint on the brush. The thing that Sequoia trees are right here in our backyard, what a great brand or name to adopt. People come from all over the world to see the trees that we have, no more than 50 miles away from us. So I was impressed, with the things that I had saw initially, and when I made the jump to join, I was in full training mode under Joshua's wing, learning what work is worth, and then me being a very analytical mind, coming from the grading and paving industry where numbers are what they are, and you hit those numbers or it's wrong and the company doesn't get paid, period. That's all there is to it. I've long said numbers don't lie, people do. So when I was trained under his wing how to evaluate these jobs, let's come up with he's teaching me how he's priced this work to date. My mind needed a tangible way to associate that cost to what I was looking at. So I just reverted back to what I knew, what I had learned in my years in either grading and paving or doing underground plumbing or whatever it was. Numbers were insanely important and you had to hit them or it wasn't right and the company didn't get paid for it. So implemented my knowledge from reading blueprints and all those types of avenues into breaking down even if it's an average residential repaint a 16 to 1800 square foot home, I mean, we may very well know what that job is going to cost and the time it's going to take to do it. But if it's not on paper and there's not something that represents it, I'll make the argument it doesn't exist. So started really building all that, and also with we had several conversations about I'm able to pick up what he is teaching me and how we evaluated these jobs, what they're worth, right? But it has to be teachable, and we always rely on gut instinct. Having a great gut is ever important, especially as a business owner or an authority figure in a business. Having a good gut to lean on is immeasurable, but being able to measure and know that, hey, this is what it is, and we're going to be great if we go with that. That's like your sense of security as you begin to train other people in these jobs to be able to scale and grow.
Yeah, I think that point about it being teachable is so critical. I think it's often overlooked.
100%. Yeah.
Because we think like, well, you want to measure it so that you actually get it right? Because it's definitely, no matter how many years you've been doing it, it's going to be more specific. You'll be able to job cost, ensure you get the appropriate profit margin and all that. But there's also no real way to scale if you're just relying on the know-how or the gut or the experience of one or a select group of people. You have to be able to pass that knowledge on to other people.
Yep. 100%. And like I said, I will never discount a good gut. We still play the game in here all the time, Brandon. We'll put a job together and I'll give him some raw facts about it that he would use for a gut price. And the gut price that he shoots out is usually within 3 to 5%, you know what I mean, of what that end of the road number is. So having a good gut is immeasurable. It's great to have, but like you piggybacked to be teachable to others, you gotta have a process that is reliable.
Sure. So it sounds like when you guys transitioned from the method that you were using to previously price the projects to then taking the measurements and doing it differently, those prices were very similar. Maybe sometimes it would end up being a little higher, sometimes it would be a lower, but it wasn't like, oh, our prices all of a sudden increased.
No, because you got to imagine, or the understanding is Joshua taught me, right? Like I shadowed him for several weeks to a month, or I don't even remember the exact time frame, but we were a tandem, So everything that I dissected with measurements, it was still based off of how his end of the road numbers were, and then through hopefully I'm not jumping episodes here, but then when you validate it with job costing, then you really know, you know what I mean? So he had the template, he had the template for what he was comfortable pricing the way he priced it.
We just didn't know I had it.
Yeah, we just, just developed the way to make it reliable and make it teachable.
What are you guys, do you have a specific target for profit margin?
Absolutely. I would love, the goal is to be no less than 35% on that gross profit. If we can make it out of a project all said and done and we're 35, I'm never going to be upset about that. 40%, 50% is awesome. We get those occasionally, right? Efficient crew, or it was a high risk job, therefore it should be a little higher reward in my book, the way my brain looks at that kind of thing. So the end of the road, like what is translated in our sales team, when you're dissecting your numbers and it's a job you really want to get, 35 is kind of your bottom number, and if that's still out of the reach for the customer, you did everything us as a company, as a brand was able to be economical for them. But that's kind of our end of the road. That's our bottom goal.
It'd be your hard stop. Do you guys use subcontractors or W-2 employees?
All W-2.
Yeah, you have to, right? In California? Yeah.
Yeah.
I give it to you guys even having a business in California. I think it's
It's tough.
got to be challenging.
You get the feeling often California really doesn't want you to operate, you
Right.
know.
It's kind of funny because sometimes when I come back from these conferences and stuff, and I'll be like, such and such over there, and they're doing this or something, and Cody comes in and yeah, let's see if that will work in California though. Cost of business is a little bit more different in California than it is
Absolutely.
in a lot of different parts of the country.
Yeah. California loves its small business owners for sure.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
love for us to fund the state for sure.
I love that part. Yeah. So let's talk about one of the things we were all talking about before we started filming here was on how Joshua, your father had a painting company, your grandfather had a painting company, and one of the things you've been focused on doing now with Cody is really building in some more, I'd say, intrinsic business value. So value to the business where it wouldn't necessarily rely as much on you, could be a transferable asset. How have you guys been focused on building that value?
You know what?
Yeah.
I mean, I have no problem talking about it. Um, through, and I don't want it to sound wrong, but to make sure that if Joshua or myself disappears, Sequoia doesn't notice it. I mean, of course they're gonna, the company would notice if that were to happen.
Turkey truck test, right?
But yeah, but the to accomplish that is just getting the right individuals, first and foremost, quality human beings. I'm overly thrilled about everybody that Sequoia has on payroll right now, and that hasn't always been the case, Brandon. It's
Hell no.
and I think any business owner, especially in this industry, would be lying through their teeth if they said they've always had or I would just be extremely envious of that individual because it's tough, but quality individuals. And then truly the big thing, and you'll probably hear me say this multiple times throughout this journey with you, is if it's not on paper, it doesn't exist. Unwritten expectations are, they're going to disappear, So job descriptions for your professional lead of admin, job descriptions for your color consultant, job descriptions for your sales team. That's your integral part, right? That's the behind the scenes. You get all that, you get quality human beings in those roles. Now it's time to do the same thing in the field. Now we need those quality foremen. We need those quality painters, whether they're apprentices that aspire to be a journeyman level or they're journeyman painters that have been doing it for a couple decades already. Finding the right fit, you got to find the fit that keeps things moving as smoothly as they can. I think that's the key to the creating value that doesn't rely on the sole proprietor, that doesn't rely on the ownership, is ownership not having to be the backbone, for lack of better terms. Owner will always be, of course, because we bear the weight of the company. It's our baby. We're going to always strive to see it succeed, but the influence isn't a necessity for day-to-day operations, so to say.
So I think also a lot of training is a
100%.
must. We do, and going back to, like I was saying, my mentor telling me, coming from the biggest entity of California, training is a huge thing in the Department of Corrections, huge thing, right? And so in the beginning stages, I was just doing annually training, and I started to notice that, month 10, month 11, that they were starting to get a little slack on some of the things and policies that we have in place. And so going back to, again, the whole, working at the prison, looking at our trainings. And so we decided to do quarterly training, So once a quarter, we bring everybody in here and we go over, takes us probably about 6 hours or so, and
Yeah.
we
We make a
go,
day out of
yeah.
it, you bet. Yeah.
and we go over everything from how to talk to the customer, what to say to the customer when you're, starting that job startup to closing a job out, and everything in between. How to paint the exterior of a house, how to paint the interior, how to do the cabinets. Because we want everything, we want to basically, when we go on a job site, they could be at different stages, but they're all going to be running the same way on every single job, because of our training.
Yeah, it's when you initially said training, I was thinking of initial training. So when someone joins, kind of train them up, but you're referring to it more in the sense of reminders, because you see that if you don't do it regularly, people will start to drift and get lazy and maybe start to do their own thing.
Yeah, and it could be a simple thing as them not putting a yard sign out. We have a policy in place for that. You're putting 3 yard signs out for the front of the house, at the entrance of the neighborhood, and the exit of the neighborhood. Passing out door hangers. And it could be as simple as them not putting a yard sign out. But to us, that's a big thing. And so when you do it quarterly, it's constantly reminding them, this is the policy, this is the procedure,
The expectation.
the expectation. Yeah. And when we went to that quarterly training, it is like if everything started to click in with everybody, and we've with that, we've gotten less callbacks, we've get less calls,
Consistent product
yeah.
too, you're as a brand, in our area, we're never the most economical. I don't like using the word cheapest, so I try not to say that too much, but we're never the most economical, and we're okay with that because we know the value in the company and what we offer and what contracting Sequoia Painting includes. So making sure that everybody involved that's part of that spoked wheel is all carrying their equal weight to keep it turning smooth, so we can continue on being as presented. You know what I mean? If the professionalism starts at the phone call or the ad that brings the phone call in, somebody answers the phone and they're pleasant and they book an appointment for an on-site estimate, and that estimator shows up on time and composes a professional estimate and is extremely informative, and this customer is blown away and signs on the dotted line, and then we show up for the work and the van pulls up and it's filthy, and they open the door and trash is falling out of it, and the guy's shirt, uniform looks like it should have been retired 4 months ago, like the ball got dropped. That spoke was now a weak point in the wheel, and we got a bump every time we spin around, so the training really helped us. We really saw a sharp decrease in those things that we did not like, in visiting job sites and customer reviews or customer phone calls about, hey, well, I just noticed this. It's not a big deal, right? That's how the conversation starts off. It's not a big deal, but, like
1 star scathing review.
yeah, it is a big deal if you took time out of your day to call me and talk to me about it, so, but yeah, like Joshua said, the training and just the reminder of the expectation, for guys in the field don't see it as much. The office staff has the same kind of standard, it's an expectation. We all wear this brand that's on my shirt, and everybody should be proud to represent that and know what it means to be a part of it.
Yeah. So you guys doing that regular training with the whole team to ensure that the ball's not dropped. I like how you're viewing it as a wheel with spokes, and kind of everything needs to be consistent. If we're marketing a quality company, then we need to answer the phone as a quality company. We need to sell as a quality company, and then we need to show up and perform as a quality company.
100%.
What does your process look like for initial training? So a new employee joins, what happens?
So when we find somebody that we think is going to be a great fit, Of course, you always, the verbal questions about experience. We're always a 90-day probation period, whether you're applying to be a foreman, whether you're applying to be a painter, whether you're an apprentice that knows nothing. We have steered away from the knowing absolutely nothing's a little bit, not completely, because those quality individuals are still out there. We have one young man that just made it through his 90-day probation 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I'm so glad that we decided to invest in him because he's as good as they come, So when they come in, it's always an agreement, and I hate to use the word angle, but the perspective is because you get a lot of different looks, especially people in the painting industry. Painters by trade, they get hired and either they're getting paid cash under the table or they're considered full-time payroll, straight out the gate. So we let it known that this is a 90-day probation period because we have to make sure you like working here as much as we like you being here. This is a two-way road, right? The slogan is creating happiness. That's not just for the customers. It's for the people that the brand employs also. So you may not like the structure, or you may not operate with the same kind of mindset. That's fine. That's okay. But we're going to keep this a probationary period till we know for sure that it's a great fit on both sides. We have a couple foremen in the field that are typically our go-to tradesmen to pair a new guy with. And
That's on the job training.
And that's on the job training, right? So then we get a real-time evaluation from people we trust with the name of our company, right? They're foremen for Sequoia Painting that don't have anybody looking over them on a day-to-day basis. To give us an evaluation of where they're at. And it's not just the skill level, right? Where they're at skill level wise, attitude, demeanor. How do they show up every day? They show up on time. Are they happy? Is there always something going on that they're griping about? Like all these things are important to us because we're big on that positive mindset. I'll say it several times, with the right mindset, there's nothing impossible. Human beings are pretty impressive in that standpoint. And in my opinion, that, you get yourself in the right headspace, there shouldn't be anything that holds you back. So we get their honest feedback, and typically we would try to keep them with a foreman for about a 2-week duration. So a couple weeks with this foreman, we'll switch them, a couple weeks with another foreman, switch them, a couple weeks with another foreman, and try to get it to where by the time we're getting close to the end of that, probation period, we have a real strong idea as if they're a good fit or not. And the 90-day probation isn't a set in stone timeline. We've had individuals that after 3 weeks are like, oh man, Carlos is it, like we like this guy. We like everything he's about. We'll pull him into the office and say, hey man, I know you're still in probationary period, but if you like being here as much as we like you being here, we'd like to make it official and have you in your full-time position. So it doesn't have to run that 90 days, It does, and especially with the guys that maybe are of lesser experience, just so we can make sure they're going to progress, at our expectation. But it doesn't have to run that 90-day duration if we know we've really attracted a quality human being that we don't want to let go somewhere else.
So with this focus on quality that you guys have of your hires, but then also your process, your consistency, and just this general concept of taking a business that was really designed to be a hobby or just kind of more of a lifestyle business, not really anything too serious, and then really systematizing it and positioning it for scale. And you guys are at almost $2 million in annual revenue. I'm going to ask you a little bit of a trick question. I don't know what the answer is. I ask myself it all the time, and I ask a lot of people. Do you think systems or people is more important at this level?
Oh, that is such a trick question.
It's such a trick question. I know.
That is such a trick
Almost the
question.
chicken and the egg kind of question. There's, it can
It
go.
sure is.
right?
Holy cow. I think systems are ever important. Um, I think systems are ever important, and I think with the right systems, the quality people will come. Something I wish we would have done a better job at adopting earlier on that I learned thanks to mentors through the PCA is hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah, I love that.
Extremely guilty of not firing fast, man. When you know
with those anchors.
yeah, when you know there's an anchor and you're just, keeping them out there for the path of less friction because it's somebody there, it's an extra set of hands. It's whatever the justification is that we will all do time to time. Hiring slow and firing faster would have helped us earlier. I guess if I was going to put what's more important, I would probably say the systems, man, because with the right system, you hope to get the quality human beings eventually, not saying it's not going to take time, or you may cycle through 20 to get one, but I think the system's ever important.
I agree. I think the systems are great because you're setting a foundation and a expectation for the people.
Yeah.
These are our rules. These are our guidelines. If you don't obey with them, you're going to get,
it's not for you.
It's not for you, and a simple thing as an employee handbook, that right there alone, when we push out an employee handbook, in the beginning stages of it, we've seen a big difference just with that, because now these are our expectations. This is how you call out sick. If you're going to call out sick, you need to let us know 2 hours prior to your start of shift.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do that, you are going to get a write-up.
Requested time, requested time off.
Putting a slip in for requesting a day off, and I think that policy is what, 4 weeks. I think we like to have in advance somewhere in there. You're gonna have a day off, and you're taking your family on vacation or something, let us know, hey, I'm gonna take this week off, and give us adequate time.
Yeah.
So we can adjust the scheduling and adjust the staffing package with that, but
yeah, I agree with that. And I think that one was one of the big things that turned into an early precursor for us as to what type of human being we were bringing on, because the reaction to the employee handbook would tell us a lot, you give somebody an employee handbook and they don't ever even open it. Well, I mean, that kind of shows you not a ton of interest, to the brand and what the brand's expectation is, now somebody that goes through it and fully understands it, and you're getting time off request slips from them 6 months in advance because they got a family vacation planned and they want to make sure they get the time. And that was huge. I mean, I think the employee handbook was one of the biggest things, that and a little bit of a precursor, to is this person going to be a good fit or not?
Yeah. And I love the setting of expectations too. They can actually see whether or not it's a fit. And I think it kind of, everything's super above board. So you guys have talked about people, having the right people. We've talked about teachable systems. I think that word teachable being super, super important there. Regular training. What other changes do you guys feel is necessary to take a business from maybe being more of a hobby to something that really has intrinsic value, where Joshua or any owner would have the ability to step back? Are there other things that we haven't discussed?
I think personally, and Cody will probably piggyback on this, but the placement of people, making sure you're putting the right person in the right place. Just because we got a commercial project that the superintendent needs us there yesterday, and we're going to throw somebody there just to fill that spot or that body, and setting him up for failure, setting the right people in the right positions. And I feel that's why today I am where I'm at with the company, as far as I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything by all means, but I could tell Cody I'm gone. I'll be back in a month. And I know this company will run exactly and be the same exact way when I left it and coming back 30 days later. And why that happened is because Cody and I, first with our personnel, we placed everybody in the right positions that they're a fit for it. I'm not going to try to set a brand new, painter and try to get him to run a job and be a foreman or a project manager, as a, because we're setting him up for failure, and sometimes it's funny because when we see that, you always think, you're a journeyman level painter doesn't mean you're going to be a great fit for us for a supervisor. I could care less that you have 30 years in the industry. Do you have 30 years supervising individuals? Because so I would say placement of your personnel would be a huge thing with that.
Right people in the right seats. And that example right there is a really good one where you'll have someone who's really talented in a specific function and they moved up in that function. And then you put them in charge of a department of other people who perform that function. And it doesn't always go, I would dare say a lot of times it doesn't go very well.
Right. It goes back to even like I said, our field painters, putting them in the right positions on the jobs. If we got someone that's not qualified, because you do have different qualifications, if we put somebody that's not really familiarized on painting cabinets or, polishing out a floor, because we do epoxies as well. Why would we want to set them there and set them up for failure, So again, I think placement with personnel is a huge part of
100%.
of making the culture fit, work.
I think any business owner that may be where Joshua was at a few years ago, you really can't be afraid to invest in the company with quality individuals, right? Anytime you take on payroll, it's nerve-wracking from an ownership standpoint, right? You're taking that burden that you are expected to provide, right? Like this company has to be healthy enough to provide these people that are expecting their skills is compensated by their pay, having quality and qualified admin professionals is not inexpensive. Inexpensive admin is not going to do you any favors, so I think Joshua he's a little bit of a risk taker, right? Like he won't mind me saying that because he's okay with saying, let's do it. What's the worst that's going to happen? We're going to have to get back up off the ground. You know what I mean? So not being afraid to keep the faith in your company and invest in bringing the people in that allow that freedom. You know what I mean? That's a big part of it.
I agree with that too, because for somebody that's starting out a company or anything, starting out a painting company, you're gonna have to take risks. And I know every time you do something new to the company, that risk, it's an eerie gut feeling. Cody and I both, we'll get bubble guts and stuff when it comes to making those decisions, and that's taking it back to when I even, started the company and only wanted it to do as a hobby and buying our first van that was a used van, it was like, oh my God, I'm going to do this. And how is this company going to go to finding this office and shop? Like, how in the heck am I going to afford to pay the monthly payments on this, and the monthly rent on it, and so risk taking is a huge thing, when you're in being an entrepreneur, for sure.
You can calculate it as best you can, and at the end of the day, you still got to step off the edge.
Yeah.
You still got to go for it, and have some faith you're going to land on your feet because you've done everything leading up to it to get the outcome you're looking for.
Yeah, 100%. Entrepreneurship, it necessarily entails risk. And then one other thing I want to add back to the trick question that I posed with the systems versus personnel. So when you guys both focus on the systems, I would tend to agree with that. I think it can go either way.
I agree too. Yeah.
Because you could get the people and then the people could make the system, right? That's the other,
Yeah.
you get
Yeah.
someone really good and then they make a system that's better than you made. But if you don't have the system, the structure, then good people won't want to be there. So it can go either way.
Yeah.
But I think one thing important to note is that when you create the system, so the systems at least for things that should be there. How do you pick up the phone? What do you say when you answer the phone? How do you park your vehicle when you arrive at a homeowner, at a house? Like certain things that are just easy to write down, create an SOP, things like that on it. The more you can put that down on paper, the more you can settle that and make it easy. You can almost upskill, up level what you're looking for in your personnel. Because for example, if you had not a good organizational system and you were wanting to hire an admin, then you'd probably need someone who is really organized. That would be a really important element. But let's say you actually had that really dialed in already. It was all super organized. Well, then you'd probably be focused on someone who really makes the caller feel special. And so now you're up on like this next level skill set where it's not like, hey, can you just make sure the wheels stay on the bus? Because
Right.
you've already screwed them on tight. The wheels are not going to come off. Now we can
Right.
look at real talent in like personnel relationships, things like that, because the fundamentals are already secured through the systems.
Yeah.
And don't get us wrong. I mean, the personnel, I mean, as you grow, the personnel can create systems as well. I mean,
Yeah.
you're never done creating systems. I don't care how big of a company you are. Like I said, my
We
mentor.
have to have a system for systems, a system for
Right.
systems.
That's right. Exactly. So there's sometimes where your personnel is going to have a great idea, and next thing you know, you're establishing a new system.
Yeah.
For that, and that's kind of what we like to do too, is try to get everybody to take ownership in this company.
Yeah.
And it's, to us, it's not mine and Cody's company. It's our company as a team here. And
It's a brand. I work for Sequoia Painting. I say that all the time. It's a brand I wear. I'm obviously a little biased being in ownership, but I work for Sequoia Painting. I strive to make the brand what I expect it to be, and I think being open about that is huge with who we employ. Like it's not Cody and Joshua sitting back, not doing anything and just watching these checks come through the door. Common misconception, typically, no, I have a strong obligation to feed this baby, to watch this thing grow, to continue to put the things in front of it that it needs for the next step, I told you a little bit in our pre-meeting. I'm never satisfied. It's not a blessing, it's a curse. Most things aren't, it's never good enough. I can hit a beautiful 7-iron to 6 feet from the pin, and well, it could have been a little bit closer. Everybody else is losing their mind. Wow, what a shot. Nah, it could have been better. It's just my mindset. I mean, not to confuse that with I don't ever get excited or appreciative of things, because I have a ton of appreciation, and I try to share that across everybody that is part of this brand constantly. Appreciate you here. Appreciate you. Thank you for what you do. And I think that's huge for ownership. Letting your people know how important they are. They are Sequoia Painting as much as we are. You know what I mean? It's ever important. Most people are not fond of dictators, right? We live in a free country. So business owners that think or that have the mindset that it's my way or the highway, there are profitable businesses that operate that way. But let's interview their staff and let's see how happy are they to be there? Are they there because they have financial obligations to pay their bills and support a family? Or are they there because, man, they really like the company, they like what it represents, they like their higher powers, you know what I mean? I think it's huge, letting people know how important like I said, the spoke in the wheel, it takes every single spoke in that wheel to make the wheel roll smooth. There's one weak spoke, there's one missing spoke. You feel that bump every time that wheel turns around, so there's nobody that's more important per se than the other when you look at it in that perspective. From the new guy learning that spends most of his time laying out drop cloths and ripping and wadding up masking paper, that spoke is extremely important. When that spoke's not there, there's a bump when the wheel turns around. You know what I mean? So that's just something I always appreciated as being an employee, was knowing that what I did had a true purpose, no matter what the task was, and I think that always empowered me to do the absolute best I could at whatever I was doing, whether it was shoveling asphalt all day to pave a road or, building a new subdivision, whatever it was, like that's my task. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability because I know I'm appreciated and I know it matters.
I want to piggyback on that a little bit too. It a lot of times, just giving somebody that a boy, they did a good job goes a long ways. You don't always got to be dashing out, money and bonuses and all these different gifts and stuff. Just telling somebody, when they have a win, or even if they don't have a win, you did your best, and and applaud them for that.
Yeah.
A little bit of words can go a long way when it comes to stuff like that.
100%. Unification, man. There's always been it doesn't matter the form of construction, there's a big disconnect between office and field. Always, right? It doesn't matter where I've been, there was always that disconnect. I was always in the field. So I have that perspective, of that disconnect. And that's been something I have really strived for since being here with Joshua is having that same team mentality and like making sure that that's known. It's super high on my priority list. And I think it plays a lot into what has led to our success and our growing success, is it's the same team and everybody's important, and there's no such thing as I'm too good to do that task. Like it is what it is. If I visit a job site and there's wadded up masking paper that somebody's working their way back picking up, I'll pick it up and carry it to their trash bin with them too. There's no holier than thou allowed at this company. That's not how we operate,
Man, I am pumped up for this podcast series. I appreciate you guys. We're already diving into so many things. I feel like there have been so many I don't know, like previews, like hints of the future episodes of
Sure.
stuff you guys have said that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna really dive into that. But yeah, as we wrap up this first episode, is there anything you guys want to add?
Just to thank you, Brandon. We appreciate the invite on this. Of course, I've become a listener. I'm trying to catch up on all these podcasts you have put out.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
I have had these light bulb moments just in the weeks, just the previous weeks, listening to some of the podcasts and things. So a couple of them I shared with you in the our pre-meeting. I won't give the nugget. We'll wait for the episode, but I really appreciate the opportunity, man, because at the end of the day, anybody listening to this is in this industry. Man, we all go through the same stuff. Either you've been through it or you're going to go through it. You know what I mean? And I think the unification and knowing that there's others out there that are seeing it, have seen it,
Done it.
do it this way, they do it that way. Hey, they both got a good result. Maybe I can hybrid something of what I've heard, So I guess that's what I would like to end with, sir. Is just thank you for the opportunity. I'm as much looking forward to this as you are, I think.
I appreciate you guys being guests.
Awesome.
Yeah. Josh, I know you were super excited about it because you like to talk a lot. So it was no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, Joshua, I do appreciate you let me twist your arm into it and then bringing Cody into it. I'm super grateful to you guys.
Oh, it's awesome, man. It's always an inside joke with my family because my kids, of course, my baby's 20 years old, but I always tell them one day I'm gonna go viral. Watch. I'm gonna go viral.
Here it is, man. Here it is.
And watch this end up doing that,
Yeah. I love it.
I
Thank
was telling a good friend of ours, Christian from Moose Painting, I was like, well, I just want one thing to go viral one time so I can tell all my kids I did it.
yeah, but viral like Christian Manhart. Exactly.
Yeah.
I love it.
But yeah, I appreciate it, man. And I do look forward to these next upcoming episodes for sure.
Yeah.
We're going to get this thing to go viral.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right,
All
man.
right. Thank you.
If you want to learn more about the topics we discussed in this podcast and how you can use them to grow your painting business, visit paintermarketingpros.com/podcast for free training, as well as the ability to schedule a personalized strategy session for your painting company. Again, that URL is paintermarketingpros.com/podcast. Hey there, painting company owners. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give us your feedback. Let us know how we did. And also, if you're interested in taking your painting business to the next level, make sure you visit the Painter Marketing Pros website at paintermarketingpros.com to learn more about our services. You can also reach out to me directly by emailing me at brandon@paintermarketingpros.com, and I can give you personalized advice on growing your painting business. Until next time, keep growing.